Just like you, these beautiful fall days have us itching to get outside and soak up the scenery. So this morning, come along with us because we are heading up to Lookout Mountain to one of the most beautiful spots in town, also one of the most historic. The spot is Point Park on Lookout Mountain, and our point person is Chris Young with the National Park Service. Come on. So we've arrived at the top of Lookout Mountain. As beautiful as the day is, it's very, very windy, which is typical here. So rather than go and talk with Chris Young, park ranger with the National Park Service outside on the bluff, we have come inside, which is where you're also going to want to come because this is where the history lesson begins. So thank you so much for letting us come up here today.
Thanks, Julie.
You said that the breeze that we saw and enjoyed outside is very typical. It's always blustery up here.
It is. It's worse in the winter than it is now.
Yeah,
but,
it's chilly.
Yeah, fall walking down this morning, it wasn't so bad. Not so great to take video, but or audio for video. But yeah, it's often blustery.
It's expansive. How large is Point Park?
So it's only about 16 acres inside the park itself. But Lookout Mountain Battlefield encompasses over 3,000 acres.
So get ready, because as you listen to Chris talk with us this morning, he used to come on the show on a pretty regular basis. He is a wealth of knowledge and loves to share it. So we're going to go to many of the sites for the battles of Chattanooga, because there are how many? 6?
There are 6 units to the park, and there are 3 major battles for Chattanooga in 1863.
So behind us, you wanted to come in this room, which you call the picture room?
Or the painting room
the
is
painting
what we call
room.
it, yes.
The painting that you see behind us is the only one of its kind?
It is. So James Walker, who was a well-known military artist prior to the Civil War and during the Civil War, he is commissioned to paint a smaller version of what you see behind me by the U.S. military, and he does that in 1864. And in 1870, the gentleman on the white horse behind us, General Hooker, who is famous for leading the attack or orchestrating the attack on Lookout Mountain, has this larger version completed by Walker. So he pays $20,000 in 1870 to have Walker complete this 13 by 30 foot painting.
So this is
us.
One piece of canvas that then became, it would go on tour,
yeah, it tours.
If you will.
Yeah, once Hooker didn't do so well at the Battle of Chancellorsville in May of 1863, and then in 1864 he gets passed over for command of an army, and so he leaves the military. And I think this is kind of to get back into good public graces at that point, is let me paint a huge have a huge painting done so that I can kind of put my name back out there. And so he does that. And it tours the country. It goes from Philadelphia, or New York to Philadelphia to Chicago, all the way out to California.
So it exists all these years, and then in the 1960s?
So it comes here in 1986.
86,
yes.
okay.
So it is rolled up. It is stored for over 40 years. And then some Chattanooga philanthropists help out to preserve the painting, and so it's been here in this building since 1986, which is the visitor center.
Okay, it is truly a place to come, and so many visitors come from other parts of the country to take in our history, and yet we don't take advantage of it ourselves. So let's get back out to the park. I mean, it is as picturesque as it gets, those swirling autumn leaves all around us today, and then your view of the city. Just when you think that you can't find a prettier one, you come here.
I know, it's beautiful. I mean, reds and yellows and golds, and it's a beautiful place to visit.
Well, and no wonder it was a military site, because it's expansive. There were no secrets. Nobody could hide when the Army was up here.
Well, and what I would remind people as they come is to look at the beauty, but don't forget the tragedy that happened here.
So let's talk about that. It's November of 1863. By the way, when you make your drive up, as we did, up those mountain roads, Ox Highway didn't exist then. They were taking what you refer to as the Old Mountain Road, and the cannons that are here are from the Civil War, and horses had to bring those up.
So the cannon that we have in the park, in the entire park, the military park, which includes Chickamauga, Missionary Ridge, Orchard Knob, here on Lookout Mountain, and across the city, we have artillery pieces, cannon. All of those date to the Civil War. They may not have been used here, they may have been used somewhere else, but they all date to the period of the Civil War or before. And so those cannon are brought up by horses up the side of Lookout Mountain. Thankfully, in the 1850s, a road was put in. And so those Confederates that are coming up here in 1863 are using that road to bring those cannons up the mountain.
Okay, you can't possibly give us this lesson in the few minutes that we have left, but let's try a little bit.
Okay.
So the Confederates are up here first.
They
Is that
are.
right?
Yes.
And then the Union Army
Yes.
comes
So
up too.
the Battle of Lookout Mountain, which is what we see behind us in the Walker painting, is when the Union Army will assail Lookout Mountain in the fog. That's why it gets its famous nickname, the Battle Above the Clouds. And then they will push the Confederates around the face of the mountain, past Ruby Falls, and then to Craven's house, which is on the side of the mountain. And it's there that the battle will kind of languish until the next morning, till well after midnight on November 25th. And the Confederates need to keep that road open because just like getting the cannons and wagons and everything up here, that's the only road down. So they have to keep it open to get all of that stuff down the mountain and back over to Missionary Ridge.
Okay.
So that's what's happening here on November 24th.
So who won?
The Union Army takes Lookout Mountain, and they will ascend the mountain and plant the U.S. flag on the tip of the mountain. And one Union soldier writes his family in November, just a few days before the battle, and says that the mountain was like Goliath. It was this giant that was kind of taunting the Union Army because of its height, because the Confederates could see everything. And then the morning of November 25th, the day after the Battle of Lookout Mountain, the U.S. flag is planted on the tip of the mountain, and U.S. soldiers in and around Chattanooga look up here, and it gives them rejuvenation to continue the fight because the giant had been slain.
You've been here 15 years.
Mm-hmm.
Are you always learning new pieces of the history
Oh,
here?
always. There are always letters, there are always diaries, there are always, sketches, things that come to light that give us new perspectives on what was happening here during the Civil War.
If you would teach a class, I would audit it. I don't think I want to take it for a grade, but I would definitely audit it. So, I mean, the sky is the limit on when you want to come up here. This weather is beautiful. It is going to be windy, so bundle up.
Yeah. And on the weekends, we do provide tours up here.
You do?
We do. So folks that are visiting up here at 11 o'clock, 2 o'clock, and 4 o'clock, Saturdays and Sundays, through the off season, as we call it, the fall, winter, spring.
Yeah.
We conduct tours up here in Point Park.
Do you sign up for them or just
You
show
don't.
up?
You just show up.
Okay, I'm going to grab my husband. I'm going to be at one with notes in hand. You do the same thing. So we kind of got you a little bit of taste of it here on Lookout Mountain at Point Park. But as you heard Chris say, there are the multiple sites. So next time, we're going to check in with him at Orchard Knob, which so many of you have seen but never been up on the knob to see what's up there and hear that story. So that's next time. In the meantime, come visit. You can find out more at mps.gov. Thank you, Chris.
Thanks, Julie.
Aren't we lucky?